Good morning, everybody. It is January 17th, 2024, a regular Ottawa City Commission meeting. Let's start with the roll call, please.
Mayor Skidmore,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Kaler,
Present.
Commissioner Clayton,
Present.
and Commissioner Crowley.
Present.
We are all here, so we do have a quorum. And I want to welcome everybody here in the gallery, as well as watching on social media. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by me, I guess. Okay. All right. We'll do that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, we give you thanks for this meeting. We thank you for the warmth of this building that we can enjoy. We also thank you for the clean water we have each and every day and uninterrupted electrical service. Father, we know many parts of the world can't enjoy these things like we've come used to. So thank you for this. Let us never take it for granted. And now, Lord, as we go over our meeting today, we just ask for your divine guidance and direction for each of us. Give us clarity of mind and good hearts as we make these decisions before us today. We give you thanks again for this time. In Christ's name, amen. Okay, we'll start off with any public comments today.
We have none registered.
None? Okay, we'll go on to item 7. Appointments, proclamations, recognitions, nominations, and public hearings. So we have a proclamation to start with for Kansas Day, for January 29th, I guess actual Kansas Day coming up. So we will have that read by Mayor Pro Tem Allen.
The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas January 29th, 2024 marks the 163rd anniversary of the state of Kansas becoming a state, and whereas the land that would become Kansas came to be part of the United States with the acquisition of the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, and whereas Kansas entered the United States as a free state during the presidency of Abraham Lincoln in 1861, and whereas the state seal contains the state motto, ad astra per aspera, a Latin phrase which means to the stars through difficulties. The motto, adopted in 1861, refers not only to the pioneering spirit of the early settlers, but also to the difficult times Kansas went through before becoming a state. John James Ingalls, a powerful voice in early Kansas history, suggested the motto as an expression of the aspiration of Kansas to reach the unattainable. Its dream is the realization of the impossible. Now, therefore, the governing body of the city of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby recognize January 29th, 2024 as Kansas Day, and reminds all citizens to celebrate the rich and powerful heritage of Kansas, a land of determination and strength. Signed this 17th day of January 2024 by our mayor, Mayor Skidmore.
So I better sign that too. And we have someone, you guys are recognized, okay, just a minute here. Down there. Perfect person to accept this and talk about it today. So.
One, two, three,
All right. Okay. Let's see. Do I have a clicker that I can use or to advance my slides? Nope.
Just tell them to
Just tell them to do it. Okay. All right. Well, first, thank you very much for allowing me to come give you a history lesson you didn't know you wanted to have today. I've been thinking a lot about infrastructure, which is not always the most interesting thing for people. I think it's fascinating. But in honor of our upcoming Kansas Day commemoration, I would like to look at some of our infrastructure and how it has historically connected us. So what we're looking at on the screen right now is a survey map from 1864 from the Government Land Office. And what you can see is the river valleys and also the creeks, but you can also see lines squiggling across it, and those are all roads. These are old roads. Many of them predate the state of Kansas. Many of them predate the territory of Kansas, but they were all important as ways of getting across the state. In Kansas, we think of the big trails, the Santa Fe Trail, the Oregon Trail, and the Chisholm Trail. But trails come in all sizes, and they serve to connect communities with each other, between Native American reserves, between farms, and between communities and water sources. So all of these trails were vital connections to the people that they served. And our trails were also vital to people who did not live here but passed through here. Thousands of immigrants and traders used our roads before the state existed. In 1854, Jotham Meeker, a Baptist missionary at the Ottawa Mission, journaled about hundreds of immigrant wagons and tens of thousands of cattle that made their way across the Fort Scott and California Road, which happened to pass right by the Ottawa Mission site. And communication along that trail was speedy enough that Meeker heard about the passing of the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, so 170 years ago this year, just days after it happened. And incidentally, there are many examples of ruts from this trail that still exist in fields across the county. Okay, next slide. The establishment of official mail routes was one of the earliest orders of business in the Kansas Territory. New settlers moving into Kansas Territory wanted and needed to maintain connections with family and friends in the East. And in 1858, 2 weekly mail routes officially connected Franklin County via territorial roads to deliver mail. 15024 brought mail from Osawatomie to Ohio City, which once stood near present-day Princeton, before continuing to the Sac and Fox Agency. And 15034 brought mail from Lawrence to Ohio City before passing near the original site of Dietrich Cabin on its way to Humboldt. Okay, next slide. Early Ottawa leaders also recognized that bringing the railroad to town was key to a town's success, and Ottawa had not one but 2 major railroad lines. The Leavenworth, Lawrence, and Galveston made it to Ottawa on December 31st, 1867, just hours before the bond deadline. And in fact, the last 2 miles of tracks of what would become known as the Lazy, Lousy, and Greasy were laid just ahead of the engine as it was rolling into town. The Missouri Pacific Railroad came to Ottawa in 1880, and the consequence of this is that Ottawa was now connected to the rest of the county and the rest of the country in every direction. Franklin Countyans had 21 stations where they could catch the train in Franklin County. Not all Franklin County communities were so fortunate, and towns like Berea literally picked up their buildings and moved when the railroad line missed them. Okay, next slide. Early Kansas was progressive in many ways, but funding roads was not one of them. In fact, the earliest state constitution specifically forbade funding for internal improvements, a direct response to the financial fiasco that was the Erie Canal. All section lines in Franklin County were declared public highways by the state of Kansas in 1868, but the state couldn't legally spend a penny to make them traversable, and that was on the county to fund. So if you were a rural resident and you needed a road, you had to build consensus with 11 of your neighbors and petition your county commissioners to have that road. And imagine having to do this for road after road and trying to connect them all throughout the county. But it turned out people in the countryside liked being connected to town. They liked being able to sell farm products and buy supplies and get their mail. Kansans were not quiet about their desire for good roads. In 1890, the Kansas chapter of the League of American Wheelmen, bicyclists, were formed in part to lobby for better roads. They were soon joined by the U.S. Postal Service, who declared they would only offer free rural mail delivery to addresses along good roads. And in 1900, the Kansas Good Roads Association was established to lobby for road surfaces friendlier to automobiles. However, the state of Kansas did not have the full authority to fund highways until 1929, one of the last states in the country to do so. Automobiles began to putter into Ottawa, and in 1902, hopeful future automobile owners began advocating for better roads through town, and there was resistance. After heated community discussion, in December of 1902, the Ottawa City Council, your predecessors, voted to pave the first few blocks of downtown with locally produced bricks, work that didn't start till 1904. And this was no small undertaking. It takes about 275,000 bricks per block. So it was quite a project. Okay, next slide. In December of 1877, Ottawans were invited to go downtown to Sheldon Hall to see a demonstration of this new device called the telephone. And Ottawans, many of who have never seen or touched a telephone before, were astonished to be able to communicate with someone in a different space in real time. In 1882, Merchants Telephone and Telegraph Company created an exchange in lines to serve 40 customers in Ottawa, and then they dragged one line to Pomona to serve one telephone in Pomona. Soon citizens were connected with the depot, city hall, county offices, the fire department, and most important of all, each other. As telephone prices dropped, everyone wanted a telephone. And in 1889, Lane Telephone Company promised that, quote, Lane would soon be connected to Kansas City and the rest of the civilized world. Pomona, Williamsburg, Richter, Overbrook, Centropolis, Pottawatomie, and Cutler Townships soon had phone lines, and independent telephone companies were born in Richmond, Rantoul, Princeton, and Wellsville. In 1897, the Ottawa City Council passed an ordinance giving Kansas Telephone Company a 21-year franchise, and a year later they granted Ottawa Telephone Company, an independent provider, a 21-year license. These two companies merged in 1915, and then they were absorbed into Southwestern Bell in 1926. Okay, next slide. You would think the excitement over telephones would die down, but with each new innovation came more enthusiasm. On September 22nd, 1958, the Ottawa Herald reported every detail to the final minute when Southwestern Bell cut the wires from the manual switchboards at the building at 114 West 3rd, which is what you're seeing in this image, and connected them to their new building at Park and Main. Ottawa customers, who normally made about 12,000 calls on a Sunday, made 26,971 calls to test out the new direct dial system, which allowed them to call numbers directly without operator assistance for the first time. Okay, next slide. Many of these connections did not come without struggles. As I'm sure our city commissioners know, citizens can be contrary at times. And rarely did these efforts to build infrastructure go without passionate and sometimes heated debate. My personal favorite story is that of the Locust Street Bridge, which Franklin County Commissioners voted to build in 1885 despite community protests that the bridge was expensive and unnecessary. When flood control installation began in 1961, the Locust Street Bridge was demolished because it was 100 feet too short to span the newly widened river channel. And Ottawans protested and lamented the loss of their beloved Locust Street Bridge, which was their direct connection to Forest Park. Okay, next slide. Okay. A color photo. This is part of the construction of I-35, which I think we forget was as recent as it really was. Our connections continue to evolve. Landlines gave way to cell phones. Much of our mail comes to us through the internet. Our railroad lines are now rail trails. But all of this infrastructure continues to connect us to each other. As we commemorate the creation of the state of Kansas this month, I want to acknowledge the monumental task of building infrastructure that both meets our current needs and looks forward, hopefully with optimism, to the needs of future Kansans and future Franklin Countyans. Thank you.
Diana, thank you very much for that. I appreciate you bringing this. I think you're the perfect person. I can tell by your enthusiasm. This is an important part of your life, and you shows. So thank you very much for bringing that to us.
Okay, thank you.
I have to laugh. I saw the telephone operators. The dormitory I lived in at K-State actually had a switchboard where I worked at occasion to have the headphones and plug in, and quite an experience to go through that. But nonetheless, to see that again brought back memories. Thank you very much, Diane. Appreciate it. Next item, we have a recognition for Travis Reiki, Fleet Maintenance Jack of All Makes Award. Michael Heafley is going to give that award.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. It's not very often that we have the opportunity to recognize somebody from Public Works, especially from a national standpoint. Travis was given this award by the Fleet Maintenance Magazine, which is a national magazine. They not only cater to municipalities and counties, they also look at large fleets like trucking companies and things like that. So the unique thing about this award is Chris is the one that put Travis in for this, but Chris did a great job of explaining his need to know all makes and models. Typically, a mechanic comes out of school, they go to work for Ford, that's where they get their training until they leave. They get all their training on Ford. And so that's kind of what they specialize, or GM, or Caterpillar, or John Deere, whatever. But our mechanics need to know and have the ability to fix anything within the city's fleet. And that is Ford, GM, Dodge, John Deere, Case, IH, Massey Ferguson, Caterpillar, just a wide range of equipment. So for Travis to receive this award from a national magazine is quite remarkable. You'll notice in the memo that I put in there, Travis has been with us since 2018. Recently, after this award was submitted recently, Travis decided to take his skills and expertise and go over to the street department and use his skills there as a heavy equipment operator. But even with that, we still need to recognize Travis and his accomplishments and his abilities. So, Mayor, I don't know if you would like to present this to Travis.
We both. Is he? Where's he at?
Yep, Travis is here. You want to say a few words? You want to say anything? No? All right. Travis says thank you.
Man, a few words, but well spoken, I'd say, so that's all right. We'll move on to, we have the consent agenda. We have the minutes from the January 10, 2024 meeting, the appointment of Gary Harris to fill open seat on the Planning Commission. We receive and file financial reports for December 2023, which, hold on just to that for a minute, because we're going to look at those. I think Commissioner Kaler made a suggestion, maybe we wait on that until the next study session. Rest, do you have any comments on that part?
No, I just wonder if we might not want to pull that particular line item out of the consent agenda and actually address that in new business, since that's something that we hadn't seen before. And then I think later on in the packet, we have quarterly reports, and so just want to discuss some changes there.
Sure, that sounds fine. Gotcha. And just the agenda approval. So do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
So I'll make the motion that we approve the consent agenda, removing item C and placing it on the new business portion of our agenda.
Very good.
I'll second.
A second. Any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thanks. We'll move on to item number 9. At this time, I'd like to give the commissioner a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. We're good there. I'm realizing I need to learn my Roman numerals, don't I? So, nothing in unfinished business. We'll go on to new business.
Item A, Kansas State Bank application for final plat.
The application is for the final plat to permit the replat and combination of 3 lots located at 2027, 2033, and 2103 South Princeton Street to allow for the redevelopment of the parcels into a branch location of Kansas State Bank. I'm guessing we've got a street planner. Go right ahead. I forgot your name. Introduce yourself.
Zach. Excuse me. Every time I come up here, I forget how to speak. Zach Martin, the city planner.
Very good, Zach. Okay, thanks.
All right. This is a pretty straightforward application here, but as you said, it's an application for a final plat to combine the existing 3 parcels at 2027, 2033, and 2103 South Princeton Street into one, with all necessary improvements to allow for the construction of a branch location of Kansas State Bank. If we switch to the next slide, thank you. Oh, one back. Sorry, didn't know you had switched already. Alrighty. So here we have an overview of the area, including a satellite image and the current zoning and future land use maps. On the left-hand side, you have a smaller version of the GIS map we have here. So you can see the 3 parcels right along Princeton right there. This is just kind of northwest of the entrance to Walmart, directly north of the Freddy's restaurant. In the center, we have the current zoning map. The parcels are currently zoned C3 commercial, and the future land use map on the right-hand side does indicate this area as commercial as well in our future land use plan. On the following slide, we do have a better view of the area as it currently stands. You can see there is some development there. Currently, there is a Kansas State Bank drive-through ATM, but no physical structure. We just have the drive-through connecting to 21st Terrace and South Princeton Street. And again, the goal of this application is to combine these 3 parcels into one to allow the construction of an actual branch location. The surrounding land uses do include general commercial uses. As I mentioned, it is near Walmart, Freddy's. It's just a very commercial area right there. And there is some agricultural land use directly to the east of the site, which you can see in the satellite image on the right-hand side. On the following slide, you can see the final plat in question. This was provided to the city and has gone through several rounds of review to address any concerns and comments that were provided by the various departments. And it has since met all of those concerns and comments, and we have moved it on to City Commission for review. So as I mentioned, it has gone through a few cycles by the city staff, and the proposed combination of parcels would allow for the development of that branch location, which staff did find as a commercial use would be appropriate for the area and would be supported by both the existing zoning and the future land use map. Staff did present these findings at the December 28th, 2023 Planning Commission study session and recommended approval of the Kansas State Bank final plat. And the Planning Commission approved the motion to accept the staff findings as their own and recommended approval of the Kansas State Bank final plat by a vote of 5-0. So with that, staff also recommends that the City Commission accepts the findings of the Planning Commission and recommends approval.
Any objections from the neighbors? Or anything, anybody come through forward with anything?
Nope, we received no comments regarding the plat, no concerns from the surrounding area.
Okay, very good, thanks. Anybody have any more to add to that?
I did notice that City Planner Martin did wear a neutral shirt today in lieu of the shirt he probably should have worn, but it's all right. We're going to let that go. And I know that we've got a new
Trying to be a
mayor.
true neutral
I
agent up
know,
here.
We've got a
just-
new mayor.
Yep, no
Has
drama.
nothing to do with Kansas State Bank or Kansas State.
It's almost Baylor
Yeah.
green, but it's so anyway.
I'm not thrilled about that one either, but
Anyone else have any comments on this one? How do you want to proceed?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move that we approve the final plat as listed in item A in our agenda.
Very good.
I will
Is there- oh,
second.
There's a second over here. Okay. Any other discussion on that? I just might add, Kansas State's been a great partner with the city of Ottawa, not only for lending purposes, but for deposit purposes for our funds. And so I really want to thank them for their great partnership, and I'm looking forward to seeing them continue to grow and expand in this capacity. So I'll just want to mention that before we vote. Roll call, please.
How do you vote, Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
And Mayor Skidmore?
I'll vote yes, too. The motion carries.
thank you.
Go on to item B under
Ordinance amending municipal code concerning alcoholic liquors and enhanced cereal malt beverage.
ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 3, Section 4-308, Section 4316, and Section 4606 of the Municipal Code to align with the Kansas state statutes. Melissa?
Good morning. In front of you is an ordinance amending the municipal code concerning alcoholic liquors and enhanced cereal malt beverage. Next slide. We're asking that you consider approving this ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 3, Section 4-308, Section 4-316, and Section 4-606. Next slide. This includes specific sections to the alcohol, liquor, and enhanced cereal malt beverages that align with the Kansas state statutes. We recently had a local election in November that removed the 30% food requirement, and this statute or this ordinance includes those changes. Next slide. Proposed amendments. In 2021, the Kansas state statute removed the residency requirement that was on for alcoholic liquor licenses as well as cereal malt beverages. So this removes that reference to residency requirements. It also removes a spouse limitation. Previously, spouses of law enforcement could not get a liquor license, and this removes that to align with Kansas state statute. It also, as I said, removes the 30% food requirement per the election in November. And it also adds language specific to zoning and health requirements, requiring that that licensee be in compliance with zoning and health laws for the city of Ottawa. Next slide. There will be a minimal publication fee associated with the proposed ordinance, and it has been reviewed by our city attorney and approved. Next slide. Recommendations or actions, we can recommend that you consider approval of the ordinance with these changes. And I would stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Anyone have any questions on this? Do you know how many businesses this will affect? I mean, I didn't know what, if we've had several in town that was, could be affected by this negatively or positively. But
The 30% food requirement would help a lot of ours. I think that the city commission received some feedback regarding that and helped with the local election removing that. Other than that, there are no other licensees that would be affected by their other changes.
Very good, okay, thank you. Okay, how would you all like to proceed on this one?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner.
I would make a motion to approve item B on the agenda.
Okay, is there a second on that?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any other discussion on this? If not, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
And Mayor Skidmore?
I'll vote yes too, that motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to 11C.
Ordinance amending municipal code concerning the sale of tobacco products, age restriction.
The proposed amendments primarily focus on Article 9 of Chapter 11 of the Municipal Code, specifically Section 11-901 to Section 11-903. These revisions are in accordance with the Kansas State statute, which seeks to adjust the legal age for purchasing tobacco from 18 to 21. And we'll hear again from Melissa.
Right. As you stated, this ordinance is amending our tobacco products age restriction to align with our Kansas state statute from 18 to 21. Next slide. This is Chapter 11, Section 11-901, Section 11-902, and Section 11-903. Next slide. The Kansas State statute in 2021 increased the minimum age for tobacco products from 18 to 21. And during the current licensing schedule, tobacco licenses are only renewed biannually. And so we renewed this year, and during that and reviewing the municipal code, we noticed that the change had not been made from 18 to 21, so wanted to bring this in front of you. Next slide. Ultimately, it changes every reference in our code to from 18 to 21, clarifies underage as moving it from 18 to 21, and requires that they provide evidence of 21 or older before a sale is made. Next slide. There'll be a minimal publication fee associated with this as well, and the city attorney has approved this ordinance. Next slide. And we are recommending or asking that you consider approval of the ordinance amending increasing the age from 18 to 21. I'd stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions? I guess I've got one, is if we pass this, how do we notify the merchants in town of this new ordinance? Is this something we do directly, or we just trust that they read the paper?
No, on all of our changes for our CMB, alcohol, liquor licenses, and tobacco, the city clerk sends out a letter notifying all licensees of these changes.
Good, okay. And this doesn't include vaping, is that right? This is strictly tobacco products?
Vaping is,
Is it?
it is under the tobacco.
It is under the, okay. I wasn't sure how that worked. Okay, thank you. Any more questions on this item? If not, how would you like to proceed?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we approve item 11C in the agenda.
Okay, is there a second on this?
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion before we vote? Let's have a roll call vote then, please.
How do you vote, Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton?
Yes.
And Mayor Skidmore?
And I vote yes too, that motion carries. Thanks. Move on to 11D.
Resolution supporting waiver of statutory requirement to use generally accepted accounting principles.
Hello. So I'm here today, Assistant Director, Finance Director McCurdy, to talk about what we refer to commonly as the gap waiver each year. So it's a request from us with the resolutions in support of it to waive the state statute saying that we fit the guidelines to opt out of gap reporting. So next slide. This is an annual request that is brought to you. So this would be just related to fiscal year 2024. Next slide, please. So the state statute is 75-1120A that sets in place the requirement for all municipalities, not just the city of Ottawa, that they would have to comply with reporting by GAAP, which is the generally accepted accounting principles. Historically, the city of Ottawa has opted out of that. We fit into the subsection C of this statute that's the waiving out. Next slide. So preparing non-GAAP financial reportings would switch completely our historic records, so we would lose continuity, but then also our current format with the non-GAAP, it allows a common reader to better understand the financial position of the cities, explains things versus the budgetary basis, which we discuss all the time, and cash basis reporting. Next slide. Failure to opt out would cause a significant increase in our audit expense, our annual audit expense, and then also it would require outside consulting to get us to GAAP reporting, so there would be some additional financial costs there. And the resolution has been reviewed by the finance director and our city attorney. Next slide. Oh, that's it, sorry. And I'll pose for any questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Very simply put, it's just a simpler way to report. Like you said, it eliminates or reduces significantly our audit costs. It's not something we have to do every year at this time. It's, I guess, an annual event. We can't just say, let's do this for the next 5 years. We just do it a year at a time.
Yes.
But it does simplify the process of accounting, and so I totally accept that. But I agree. But any other questions, or how would you like to move on this, commissioners?
I'll make the motion, but before I do that, I had to just kind of chuckle a little bit about Assistant Finance Director McCurdy's statement about the general public, it being more complicated for the general public to understand GAAP financing or GAAP reporting in lieu of how we currently report. And sometimes, I'm just going to tell you, because I'm not in the finance world, some of the reports that we get are a bit confusing. So I can't imagine GAAP being any more confusing than some of the stuff we see already. But I will make a motion that we waive the use of GAAP-based accounting for 2024.
Okay. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
There is a second. Any other discussion? Let's start with a roll call, please.
How do you vote, Commissioner Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Yes.
And Mayor Skidmore?
And I vote yes, too. That motion carries. Thanks, Rebecca. We'll move on to item E, 11E.
Resolution defining depository institutions for idle funds held by the city.
Updates to the resolution are necessary only when changes are made to the authorized signers. The resolution presented is intended to repeal and replace Resolution 1861.23 with one minor change related to a legal name change for one authorized signer. And this would be Rebecca.
I'm back again.
Good, good.
Since you already hit that, I'm going to go next slide. So a little background. So the resolution 1861-23 was adopted by you all last year at your April 5th City Commissioner regular meeting, and that was when we brought on our new city manager. So again, a change. The resolution was only necessary because there was a change in staffing, which resulted in a change in authorized signers. And that is the statute 9-1401 that says that. Next slide. So this resolution as presented is just intended to repeal and then replace the previous. The only reason why we would do this again is change in staff. Next slide. So this financial impact lists all of the items in the resolution that just talks about the financial implications or the purpose of the resolution, which talks about what the signers are allowed to do, which is open new accounts, whether that be a checking or an investment account, for example. They endorse the checks that we pay bills with and pay our staff with. Anytime we do an indebtedness, it has to have approval from 2 people. So no one is acting independently. There is always some checks and balances there. And the legal considerations is that the city attorney has reviewed the resolution as well. And I will stand for questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Rebecca? I guess I've got one. At one time, somebody approached us about buying some U.S. Treasuries. How could we do that? And if we did, would that be an amendment to this?
It wouldn't be an amendment to this. It would be an amendment to our investment policy, which we are, as you will see later in the quarterly reports, so we have our final draft on an expanded investment policy, which we are planning to bring to you very soon.
Okay.
But yes, we would need the 2 signers to do that.
Same way.
Mhm.
Very good. Okay, thanks. Anyone have any other questions? How would you like to proceed?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 11E.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any other discussion for this? If not, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
How do you vote, Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
And Mayor Skidmore?
I'll vote yes, too. That motion carries. Dr. Beck, good job. Quarterly reports, is this what you wanted?
Well, do we need to go back to what we removed from the consent agenda?
We can do that.
Mayor Skidmore?
Yeah, let's do that. And we can go back to page, I'm showing page 8. And who's, good. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Help yourself.
All right, thank you. So, to our IT staff, there is not a slide presentation for this. These are the monthly reports, and we did make a change in that if you remember, for lots of months and years before, you used to get monthly reports from all of your departments and your outside community partners. And several months ago, we stopped doing monthly reports and we converted to quarterly reports. Well, the finance department is still required to produce monthly reports. I don't know if required is the right word, but we absolutely need to, and we have been. And we've been bringing them to you in a couple of formats, but as a receive and file report to you as the commission for the past a couple of months. And they've probably come to you on a study session agenda or something like that where they've been presented to you. But each month, by the middle of the month, we complete our financials, and by I'd say at least by the 15th, they're posted to the website so that anyone has access to those monthly financial reports of the city. And then we also participate in producing quarterly reports for you. And so that's what's included in your packet under the quarterly reports. The monthly reports are something you could take a look at and let us know if you have questions. But unless you really want to go through those with a fine-tooth comb going forward, they'll just be presented to you as a receive and file item in your agenda, unless you choose to do something other than that. They are in more detail than your quarterly report is, and that's on purpose, more to pare down and summarize for your quarterly report that you're having discussions with on a regular quarterly basis. But the detailed monthly reports are out there and maybe serve a little bit different purpose.
And I can attach those with the transmittal letter. And that way you still get that monthly detail with a general synopsis, if you will, of the financials, rather than just providing a raw monthly report.
Sure. Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Melanie, can you kind of expand on, for those watching or maybe people who review this, on some of the funds that our expenditures are significantly lower than what was budgeted? You know, we've got some that are 30%. Kind of what happens with those remaining funds at the end of the year?
Oh, sure. Yes. If you're, I want to give a two-part answer to this. If it's for a division or a department within a fund, those are all of those funds. I'm sorry, any remaining dollars at the end of the year that were unspent that were budgeted continue to roll to your next year's fund balance or cash balance at the top of the year. So then they can be used for operations going forward. When you see unspent funds in some funds, it's because we budgeted for a reserve and we didn't spend that. We don't ever generally intend to spend those reserves unless we have some sort of significant unplanned expense that comes to us. So sometimes you see a larger budget number than we're ever anticipating spending for that year as well, because we do budget those reserves in case they were needed during the year. So it really depends on what you're looking at, but if you're looking at maybe expenditure to date, say for the divisions within the general fund, all unspent dollars in the general fund at the end of the year roll up to the beginning cash balance or beginning fund balance for next year. Now you already have a budget in place for 2024, so we do have budget authority, which is different than cash balances. So your budget authority is to spend up to the amount that you approved for 2024 budget. So if we budgeted for $2 million in cash carryover, and that was part of our expenditure budget that we plan to spend down to a certain amount at the end of 2024, anything in excess of that original amount that we'd planned for just stays in the fund as unallocated or unbudgeted cash reserve or cash balance. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay.
I did have a question on the sales taxes. So they're always 2 months behind getting us the funds. So we're not really able to close out 2023 totals yet, are we?
No, we are. So we all cities receive their sales tax 2 months after the sale is made at your merchant. So any business that makes a sale in January, assuming they report and remit their sales tax monthly, the city receives that sales tax back, or our small portion of the total sales tax that is the city's. We receive that 2 months later. So we received, and you'll see this in other areas too, we received 12 payments in the year of 2024 or 2023. And so we would consider that closed at the end of December.
Okay, so December's funds won't come in until into February. Is that right? Should be 2 months
Any
behind.
sales that happened at your local merchants in December, that sales tax won't come to us until February, correct?
Okay. I was reading this, it talks about the month of December totals here, and I didn't know if that was on the top of page 11.
And this is a good example of cash basis
That's what I thought.
versus GAAP.
GAAP.
So it's the modified accrual cash basis format of collecting
Okay.
when received as opposed to the carryover, which is what occurs with
Just
the
like an
GAAP
account
type
receivable,
financing.
basically, right? Okay, coming in. Good. All right, thanks.
Yeah. Mayor Skidmore, if I might mention, I think that something else that we talk about sometimes in financials is you get to the end of the year and we do still have December expenses coming in. And so we won't actually close our books until mid-February, and we'll have our audit at the end of February. So 2023 and what you have both in your monthly report and your quarterly report, those aren't final December numbers. They don't include things that we might yet need to encumber. They don't include maybe some transfers that might be yet to be made, and they don't have all of your expenditures included. So for example, if you have a personal utility bill, you might get billed in the middle of the month. The service is for half of December, half of January. So we have to still pay some of those December expenses in January. So we do leave our books open for a little bit longer. So once we get done, truly done with 2023 expenditures, and we will bring a new finalized report back to you at that time. So you'll have a complete picture of what 2023 looked like.
Well, if I had a gold star, I would put it on page, what is this, page 20, showing our idle funds.
You can have whatever gold star you
I'd like
want.
to have a gold star to put on this one, but I'm showing our interest revenue from 2022 at 46,477, and we're up 760,861, $714,000 difference there. So 16 times what we had in 2022. So kudos to your department for getting that done, and I know you've worked hard at that, getting that, making that work, but excellent job on that. Any other comments you want to make on that?
Just other than to echo those kudos to your city treasurer, McCurdy. She has done excellent work on making sure that those funds are not just invested, but she is tracking them. She is making sure that we are meeting some target goals she has set, not just for the year of 2023, but she's also set goals for 24. She's working into 25 at this point and trying to ladder those investments so that it makes the most sense. She's also drafted the expanded investment authority policy, which we'll want to bring back to you in the next period of time so we can do other things maybe outside of what we're doing currently. We are limited as to what types of investments we can make, and so that expanded investment authority would allow us to do maybe a couple more things than we are not currently doing. Nothing too wild and crazy. There's still public funds, and we have to be very conservative about how we invest those funds.
Good, great. I don't know how you're going to top that this year, but maybe you can. I don't know, rates are starting to trend down, but as long as you've got these locked in right now where they are, you've done a good job getting that ladder figured out, so that's great. I really commend you for that. And I guess our checking account's not listed here, but that's also not idle funds, that's a transaction account, but we're still earning a rate of interest on that through a sweep account. Is that, you know what that rate is now, or is it still like 3 1/4? Okay.
the sweep account is.
The rate is still 3 1/4, and that is with the bank where we hold our operating account. And so basically what that sweep account means is that we've designated a minimum amount that would be held in an overnight operating account. Everything else is swept into an outside account where it earns interest at a much higher rate than what it would be if it were left in that savings account ongoing.
Great. And also see we got some money in the health funds account too, in the Cedars, so that's great to have that money earning better interest than the transaction account, so congratulations to that too, so great job. Also, appreciate the debt summary as well, it's good to have that in front of us. I think, yeah, we got the income side here, we got good cash flow, looks like, but it's always good to have our debt obligations in front of us too, like this, to see some of these bonds are maturing here in the next few years, what kind of debt looks like we're gonna be coming off. Particularly, I think about that if we're looking at a new pool in a couple of years, if we got some debt coming off, that'll certainly appeal to the people, make it a little bit easier to possibly get that pool built as we hope to do in the next few years. But I feel like I'm kind of commandeered the conversation here today, so I'm almost giddy about it. But see if any of the other commissioners have anything they want to ask or add.
You took all my questions.
Oh, yeah, I'd do it.
I had the same stuff
I know.
for finance. I think it's a great use of our idle funds, seeing that number, and like Mayor Skidmore said, a 16x, and that is incredible, and so just props to you and your department, and Assistant Director McCurdy for that as well.
Thank you. She's done an amazing job.
May not be 16 times next year, but if we can even level off, that'd be a great thing.
Well, if she, yeah.
Any other questions for Melanie?
I know this was, Mayor, I know this was on the consent agenda. Do we need to officially approve it, or we're just receiving it?
I think if we're just receiving it today, is that good for everybody? I think we're good with that.
Yeah.
Very good. Good report.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ladies. We will go on to comments by city manager now.
Mayor, do we want to address what we'd like to do with the review of the quarterly reports, which are
Did I miss one?
item F?
Oh, yeah, let's talk about, item F, I'm sorry, go right ahead, Commissioner Kaler.
I wonder if we've, this agenda looks a lot different, and with new year comes new things. Certainly I know that we all embrace change. I'm wondering if we might want to move our quarterly reports to, or what the thought, across other commissioners about moving our quarterly reports to the study session next week.
Anybody have any objection?
Actually, we don't have a study session next week, I don't think, do we?
The 17th.
Well, we don't have
24th,
study
yeah.
sessions
No.
anymore anyway.
Yeah, and they're all regular meetings.
They're all going to be, so it'll be the 31st will be the next one.
And technically, even the study sessions are
Meetings.
regular meetings, yeah.
They're at different times,
You can-
however.
yeah.
And so regardless of what we're calling them, I'm wondering if we might just want to wait till the 31st.
Anybody have any objection to that? A lot of information there to go over, but
Yeah.
you're good, everybody? Okay.
Commissioner Kaler, are you requesting that moving forward that we just have the monthly reports on like a 4 PM meeting then?
I'd like to have that discussion. I certainly am not 100% committed to one way or the other. I really just, I personally would like to see it at a 4 p.m. meeting.
I could be in favor of that for sure.
Anybody else?
I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah,
Good.
certainly
Good.
unopposed.
All right, let's do that then. So let's bring this up on the 31st at 4 p.m. and we'll discuss those items there. Thank you, Commissioner Kaler, bring that up. Now we'll go to city manager comments.
Just want to point out that at tomorrow's FCDC meeting, we'll have Lieutenant Governor Toland present. So if you get an opportunity, you might want to swing by there and
Great.
roll out the welcome wagon with Paul. So thank you for bringing him to town.
That's great. And Paul, that's at 8 tomorrow morning at? Yes, we can. Good. Fantastic. Glad to have that relationship with Mr. Toland, so I agree. Let's go on to commissioner comments. Let's start with Commissioner Kaler.
Certainly want to lift up Paul and everybody at FCDC for having Proximity Park be officially recognized as a new certified site for Kansas Department of Commerce. Good work. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Also want to lift up Travis Reiki, who I know he's probably run back to work on something. I'm sure that in this cold weather, not everything is working great, but if it's not, Travis is going to be able to do it. So I like Mike Hafley had indicated, this is the first time we've had a chance to lift up one of our employees, and so congratulations to Travis for making the Jack of All Makes Award. Appreciate that. And congratulations to him and to all of our employees who do such a great job. And then happy Kansas Day to everybody in a couple weeks.
Good. All right, Commissioner Clayton.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate the Happy Kansas Day. I thought Diane's presentation was great. It always takes me back to school, and you learn about the ornate box turtle and all of the things about Kansas. I don't know if they still do those things, but I think it's just something neat to kind of take some pride in where we come from, and that slideshow obviously really showed how far Ottawa's come and kind of the impacts that what we do up here and what our employees do every day really has on the community. And obviously recognizing Travis, that's amazing. I struggle with fixing one or two things. So I always applaud people who can kind of do that across multiple brands and different things like that as well. And then I know we're reviewing them later, but those monthly report or quarterly reports now always have so much information. I know I have people stop me and ask questions in the supermarket, and I a lot of times reference them to look at these and read through them because there's a lot of really good information. I think some great transparency from the city in them. So.
Good. All right. Commissioner Crowley.
I have no report.
Okay. Pro Tem Allen.
Well, I was going to say, I have, as people can see, changed my name from Graves to Allen, so back to my maiden name, and so that's why there was a pause after not only the Pro Tem, but the Allen. Every time I'm like, oh, it's me. So just so everybody's aware, there's a change there, and I'll make it stick for a while, so it won't confuse anybody anymore.
Good job. All right. Thanks. I don't have much to report really either. I did notice in the proclamation the last name Ingalls there. I was going to ask Diana before she left here if that has any connection with Little House on the Prairie, but I'll have to ask her sometime if that name fit in with that exactly or not. Anyway, I think that was really all we have today, but we do have this on we're going to have an executive session. Let me read this here. Well, let me read the announcements first. We got Martin Luther King celebration, which will be Sunday at 2 p.m. That'll be at Ottawa University. I thought it was at the Ottawa Memorial Auditorium. It's at Ottawa University. Is that, anybody know on that?
Don't know if it's there.
I think it's still at the OMA.
I was thinking it's OMA too. You ought to know.
She should know.
Okay, we'll go with OMA on that one. And then we got our commission is canceled for the 24th. League of Kansas Municipalities Local Government Day will be in Topeka that day. On the 25th, we got the Chamber Annual Awards Banquet at 5:15. That is at Ottawa University, Schendel Conference Center, / the Goffert Center room. I'll mention that. And then on January 31, we do have our next city commission meeting at 4 p.m. So at this point, I'll make a motion. The commission recess in executive session at, how much time we need? 15 minutes. Where's our clock here? So we'll take a short break here. Let's reconvene at 5 till the hour, and then go till, what would it be, 11:10 for 15 minutes with the attorney and the city manager present for the purpose of attorney-client consultation. The justification for this closed session is to engage in confidential and privileged communication with the board's attorney by KSA law. The open meeting is to resume in this room at, and I think it would be 11:10, and there'll be no action taken. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Do we on that? I was just looking, that clock is a little slow.
Oh, it is.
Looks like it's 5 minutes slow, and I just.
You're right. So adjust
Is
that
that-
up.
Okay.
Adjust that up all 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, good. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Is there a second? Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.